Hello, everybody, and welcome to Monday Night Travel with Rick Steves Europe. My name is Gabe Gunning, and I have the privilege of serving as your host this evening as we explore majestic Madrid along with a very special return guest. Now, without further ado, I am so excited to welcome back to Monday Night Travel for the second time our favorite Spanish guide, Federico García Barroso. Bienvenidos, Federico, on Monday Night Travel.
Hola,
look at that,
amigos.
Madrid fan.
Amigos de América y Canadá, welcome to Spain. Welcome to Madrid, the capital of Spain. Nice to meet you, all of you.
So, Federico, you were with us in September of 2021 for just a general Spanish favorite show. But today we are going to hone in specifically on Madrid.
Yeah.
And Federico, I'm wondering, how long have you lived in Madrid? Where did you grow up in Spain, and how long have you been in Madrid?
Well, actually, I have to tell you, Gabe and my friends, I have to tell you, I am a cat. I am a cat. In Spain, those people with ancestors, persons like me with ancestors in my city, my parents, my grandparents, we are all coming from the same place, from Madrid. We are called the cats of Spain. And this is my place. I've been living here all my life, guiding people all over Europe, but finally coming back home, Madrid. Yeah.
So you were born and raised in Madrid?
Yes, this is my city, exactly. Yes.
And why are people that are born and raised in the same city as their ancestors called cats?
It's a beautiful story that comes from a long time ago. In those medieval ages, Madrid was divided by a big wall. In one side, we could find those Christians. In another side, those Moors. In those days of those crusades, and they were not allowed to go from one place to another. But people had relatives and friends in both sides. So in the night, they used to climb up the wall like cats do. Beep, 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 beep. Jump from one place to another. And just because of that, you see, actually, we were called cats, the cats of Spain, Madrilenians, people from Madrid.
Well, I'm allergic to cats, so hopefully I don't have too much of a reaction during tonight's presentation. And Federico, I understand that, last time you were here, you talked just more generally about Spain. I'm so glad that you're going to have this opportunity to tell us about your hometown. And I know that you also have the opportunity to share your hometown with Rick Steves Europe tour members. And I'm just curious, how did your 2022 tour guiding season go?
Really good. Really good. We were really looking forward to come back to reality, you see, in every meaning. And then it was a wonderful year. It has been a wonderful year, guiding people all over. We were very busy. I was very busy and very happy to be busy, guiding Americans and Canadians in springtime, fall season. And I basically did the BAM tour, the one of Barcelona, Madrid, which is the one that I love. I mean, I can guide you everywhere in Spain and Portugal, but I really enjoy BAM because I love art and architecture and history and art galleries and palaces. And this tour is just the best tour, in my opinion. 8 days, knowing the highlights of Barcelona and Madrid, taking the high-speed train, which is absolutely terrific, and being a local guide in my city. I love it. What can I say?
Well, I know, actually, I was talking with one of our tour sales and services team members today, and they were mentioning that we actually have a few open seats on our BAM, Barcelona and Madrid, our Barcelona and Madrid tour in February. So if anybody wants to kick their 2023 off with a bang and see Federico in Madrid, joining one of those February tours would be great. I also know, Federico, on our tours, typically whenever we arrive in a new city, we start with an orientation walk, just a 30 to 45 minute walk around the neighborhood to get ourselves situated. And I would like to do the same thing as we explore Madrid virtually this evening. So we're going to start off with a quick glance at the map of Madrid, and then we're going to have some videos down on the streets in Madrid to give you a sense for the city before we start diving into some history. So let's take a look at the map now. So for today's show, we are going to start out right here in the center at the Puerta del Sol, the main plaza of the city. We'll then walk along the bustling Calle de Arenal. And then we are going to go down to Madrid's Plaza Mayor. From there, we'll head over to the Royal Palace and learn a bit about Spanish history. We'll then hop on some public transportation and zip over to the other side of town, enjoy a serene moment at the Buen Retiro Park, and enjoy some art at the Prado Museum before heading back to the city center for some tapas and some light entertainment to finish our show. So before we get onto the streets of Madrid, Federico, I am curious, where in the city do you live?
I have a wonderful condo located in the city center downtown. You can see there, the street Gran Via, which is a very, very emblematic, not far from Puerta del Sol. Exactly. Yeah. Gran Via goes that way, Metro Gran Via. And just there, behind Gran Via, we find that picturesque square in pink color called Pedro Cerolo Square, Plaza de Pedro Cerolo. That is the place where I live. And that's just fantastic location because I am next to those hotels in Gran Via where we usually go with our travelers, Ricky Steve's groups. We are usually in Gran Via hotels that are fantastic. And that is the perfect location for travelers and for me.
Excellent. So staying along the Gran Via, because then you are kind of in between the city center, not far from Puerta del Sol, and then you're also close to the trendy Chueca neighborhood, which I also understand is wonderful to walk around.
Yes, absolutely.
And fun to know that this is where you're broadcasting from right now in Madrid. All right. Well, we're going to be starting out with a clip of Rick looking over the Puerta del Sol from his hotel room.
Good.
Madrid is the hub of Spain. This vibrant capital, Europe's highest at 2,000 feet, has a population of over 4 million. Most of the city is modern urban sprawl, surrounding an intact, easy-to-navigate historic center. We'll limit our visit to this old core. Madrid is livable and fun to visit. Former parking lots are once again grand and people-friendly squares. Short posts keep cars off the sidewalks. And the fine old buildings show off their original elegance. The historic center is enjoyably covered on foot. No major site is more than a 20-minute walk or a 5-minute cab ride from Madrid's lively main square, the Puerta del Sol. It's a hub for the metro, buses, city celebrations, and a busy pedestrian shopping zone. And in the old center, it seems there's a surprise around every corner.
Hola, I'm in Madrid, and we're working very hard. We've had our room here for a few days. I got my pantry set up, and this is what you get these days for about 100 euros for 2 people. You'd get a room like this, and right now our big focus is España for next year, 2013. Got all my inputting going on, but what I like about this, step outside, and you got Puerta del Sol. This is the ultimate sort of people center. You got your subway, step down in there, and in 15 minutes you're anywhere in town.
So, Federico, I'm curious, what does Puerta del Sol mean in Spanish?
Well, Puerta del Sol means the sun gate. The sun gate. There used to be a gate a long time ago. They're facing east. That is the reason why it was called the Sun Gate. And unfortunately, the gate would be demolished in those 1800s. So now the place should be called the Sun Square because the sun is still shining. But well, despite we don't have the gate anymore, we still call it the Sun Gate, Puerta del Sol, which is the epicenter. It is supposed to be the epicenter, the geographical center of the whole Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal, but it is not. It is close to be, but not physically the real center of Spain and Portugal.
And of course, we saw from the guidebook that Rick showed that this video was taken about a decade ago when Rick was researching for his 2013 guidebook. Does the Puerta del Sol look fairly similar today?
Well, I can tell you that Carlos III, the king riding his horse, He's still there, but there is a big renovation right now. It's going on right now. The square is being totally renovated, and that is fantastic because it's going to be ready for all of you and for the locals in a few weeks. In January 2023, there's going to be a new Puerta del Sol, totally pedestrian, no cars anymore.
Excellent. Well, yeah, especially anybody going on those February BAM tours is going to get to see the brand new renovated Puerta del Sol. And I'd been to Puerta del Sol a few times, and in Spanish, I knew that it meant, the sun door or the sun gate, but I never knew why. So thank you for sharing that, Federico. We're going to enjoy one final glance at the Puerta del Sol, and then Rick is going to take us out onto the streets of Madrid.
Your taxis coming through, you got your mariachi band, your Occupy Madrid stuff going on, the big capital. But, I got to get back in here and discipline myself. I could spend all day running around this town. I've got some work to do. Got to update, put all my new information into the book. Adios, happy travels.
And then they're saying accept access to hotels, so you have to get like a certain pass to get it.
Hola, I'm Rick Steves. I'm in Madrid and just checking in with the city. It's a city that's a work in progress and I'd say doing a great job. This is Calle Arenal and this is my guide, Nigel. Hey,
Buenos
Nigel.
dias.
And without a guide, I am dead in the water. And with Nigel's help, I'm learning a lot. Look at this incredible architecture here. That's from the late 19th century. We'd call it historicism. Elsewhere in Europe, what's the general name for this kind of architecture?
We have historicism and eclecticism. And historicism is going back to older styles that are historical styles and making them new. And eclecticism is mixing those historical styles into one.
There you go. Now, this street, what is exciting to me is I remember when it was a traffic nightmare, but
Absolutely.
Now you've got a pedestrian zone and with cameras that enforce it. As a matter of fact, you can see the cameras right up here. And if you drive through here, whether you're a tourist, completely innocent, or just trying to see something, you're going to get a bill in the mail.
Pretty nasty ticket.
It's going to be pretty expensive.
Yeah, I bet.
Probably 100 euros or something
Probably.
like that.
I wouldn't want to find it.
I remember when they didn't have the bollards here and it was just a traffic nightmare with cars parked everywhere. You don't want to litter. In fact, it says, we know you don't really mean it, but don't litter. It's a good way to love your city.
Absolutely.
And of course, there's lots of fun things for sale on the streets. And this is, and you'll notice they're on a drawstring. So that it's let's say it's quasi-legal. If a police comes around the corner, they'll pull that string and bam! It's like antelopes leaping into the distance. Not a sign of the guys selling their goodies on the streets. But this is the paseo, and in Spain, that is really the national treat.
So Federico, Rick loves talking about either the paseo in Spain or the passeggiata in Italy. Can you share with us what is the paseo and why is it such a staple of Spanish life?
Because in Spain, Gabe, that my fair lady, she used to sing, "The rain in Spain stays mainly on the plains," and that is true. The sun is shining and shining and shining for so much time. You see that is a reason why we have a kind of a later breakfast, later lunch, later dinner. Why? Because the sun is shining, and before and after that, we just walk and meet people. We actually enjoy to go outdoors to meet people, and eating or drinking, tapas or finger food is just an excuse to meet people. And as I tell you, before and after that, we just walk and we enjoy to go outdoors and to meet friends. That is the paseo in every street, in every park, everywhere.
Well, I just love these pedestrianized streets in Europe because there's a lot of places in the US or here where I am in Seattle where people can, walk along waterfronts or in parks, but never really through the middle of the city. I mean, this is a street that goes pretty much right through the center of the city, and it's wonderful just to see people be able to just stroll along it. So we're going to enjoy a few more moments of the paseo, and then after that, we are going to explore Plaza Mayor.
It's just to walk out and connect with the city, feel the pulse of a great city like Madrid. Quiet, you can hear the birds, no traffic noise, and you can feel the energy of the capital of Spain. Happy travels. Plaza Mayor is a stately, traffic-free chunk of 17th century Spain. Whether hanging out with old friends, enjoying a cup of coffee, or finding a treasure at the Sunday coin market, it's an inviting place for people to gather. The square is filled with emblems of Spain's powerful past. Bronze reliefs under the lampposts show how upon this stage, much of Spanish history was played out. The square hosted bullfights. It was the scene of generations of carnival gaiety. And during the Inquisition, many suspected heretics were tried here and punished. In this case, publicly strangled.
So, Federico, this is not a very upbeat way to finish our little walking tour of Madrid, but could you tell us, I'm sure you could teach a whole college class on it, but could you tell us in about 2 minutes or less, what was the Spanish Inquisition?
Yes, Gabe, of course. Thank you. I actually guide people in my city. I have a specific tour, a walking tour about the history of the Spanish Inquisition in Madrid. I can tell you there are some mathematical facts and there are some myths about the Spanish Inquisition. First, the Inquisition itself was born in Italy, not in Spain. And the first victims were actually in France, in southern France. But then in those days in Spain, some American and Canadian friends, they might know something about Isabella, Queen of Castile, and Ferdinand, King of Aragon. They got married, and that is the beginning of the birth of the United Kingdom of Spain, the couple that actually sponsored Christopher Columbus to go west. And Isabella had that priority to sponsor those navigators, but Ferdinand had another priority to import the concept of the Italian Inquisition into Spain. And that is the beginning of the nightmare that would take 3 centuries and a half. I can tell you, my friends, how it was all about the money. If I am an inquisitor, considering in those days that super cosmopolitan country, Spain, where Jews, Muslims, and Christians, they all lived in a reasonable harmony before the arrival of Isabella and Ferdinand, that wealthy Jewish society and that wealthy Moorish society were actually a problem for that Christian community. And those inquisitors, they said, if I am an inquisitor, I consider myself the ambassador of God. So God is telling me that I have moral authority over you. If your religious, political, philosophical, ethical, sexual tendencies are different to mine, I have moral authority to persecute you, to prosecute you, and to execute you. And before that, I will obviously get your money. And this was something absolutely insane, but it actually happened all over Europe, in the known world in those days, my friends. The nightmare will end at the beginning of the 1800s, actually quite late. Why the Spanish Inquisition, my friends, has such a horrible reputation, so bad that we easily forget other inquisitions, like the one in the Anglo-Saxon countries or the Germanic countries or Scandinavia or Holland. Basically, because many of those things actually happened. And also we have to say that we in Spain, we were the only ones writing those facts in those books. Many other countries didn't do that. And consequently, we easily forgot what they did. In Spain, we have the names of those victims, the names of those inquisitors, the reason why those people were killed, when, where, and how. And consequently, we can be quite critical with our history. It's the darkest episode on the history of Spain. And I'm happy to welcome you and to guide you in my city, giving you a tour in depth about the history of the Spanish Inquisition.
Wow, Federico, hearing that it was 3.5 centuries. Sometimes I think looking back on history, you can think that something like the Inquisition was just a blip, but there are generations of people that lived their entire lives under the Spanish Inquisition, and that was just their reality. So I'm glad it's a reality that we don't have to live with today, but thank you very much for sharing that with us. And we're going to pick your brain a little bit more about Spanish history by continuing on to Spain's royal palace to learn a bit about the history of the Spanish monarchy.
I'm Rick Steves, and we are in Madrid, and I'm with my good guide, Rosanna. What's the best palace in all of Europe?
The Palace of Madrid, the Royal Palace of Madrid.
And where is that?
Right here.
Right here. And we have here, on this square, We've got the Royal Pharmacy over there. We've got the cathedral here. We've got the armory here. And the humble little home of the king. So you've got the four elements. You've got the state, the drugs, the church, and the weapons. Let's go to the Royal Palace in Madrid on a beautiful cloudy day in the center of Spain. Viva España!
Madrid's royal palace was built by Philip V in the 1700s. He was born in Versailles, and while he ruled Spain for 40 years, he stayed very French.
The palace was designed to be Philip's Versailles to help establish a new dynasty, the Bourbon. And it's big, over 2,000 rooms. With acres of lavish paintings and tapestries, a king's ransom of chandeliers, priceless treasures, and bronze decor covered in gold leaf. There are over 150 fancy clocks in the palace, all in working order. Portraits of past royal residents, these are by the great Spanish painter Goya, decorate the walls. In the lavish throne room, golden lions tread red velvet, symbolizing the might of the monarchy, whose coat of arms incorporated many realms and whose empire spanned both hemispheres.
Federico, as a high school Spanish teacher, I used to teach quite a bit of Hispanic history. And one thing that my students learned about was the conquista in the New World. And I'm wondering if you can just give us a sense for just how big the Spanish Empire was at its peak.
Okay, there are two different moments. In the history of Spain. We talk about two dynasties. If we talk about the times of those Habsburgs, those were those 1500s, the moment in which the emperor, Charles I of Spain, is actually Charles V of Germany, and he's the man who sponsored those two wonderful guys called Magellan from Portugal and Elcano from Spain, were the first people who were able to circumnavigate planet Earth. Those were the first human beings who were able to prove that the world is a globe. And that happened just 500 years ago, in the year 1522. We are celebrating that right now in the year 2022. It's actually a very special year. And there is another moment. You can see me now as Charles III. I am your majesty, and I'm actually welcoming you to my palace. Carlos III, an extraordinary human being with ethical values, who became king of Spain in a very unexpected way, who was the third generation of the Bourbons who came from France, but the first one who physically lived in that palace. And that palace is a consequence of that extraordinary moment in the history of Spain. Nowadays, in the year 2022, the UNESCO in New York City finally said that Madrid is a World Heritage Site, thanks to the legacy of Carlos III, that extraordinary palace that was a wonderful example of contemporary art in those days. And I just invite my American and Canadian friends to enter in Google Madrid Landscape of Light, and they will discover the magic of Madrid as a World Heritage Site and the legacy of Carlos III, including obviously this palace, which is absolutely unique. It really is. Yeah.
And I know that we also linked to the landscape of light in the chat widget. So you can find a link there if you want to learn more about the new UNESCO World Heritage Site. All right, let's continue on with our tour of the Palacio Real.
There we go.
Above the throne, the ceiling fresco by Tiepolo celebrates that vast Spanish empire upon which the sun never set. A rainbow leads to a macho red-caped conquistador and American Indians, just some more distant Spanish subjects. Philip V, the grandson of France's King Louis XIV, began the Bourbon dynasty, which continued into the 21st century with the popular King Juan Carlos.
Federico, I'm interested. Rick had referred to the Palacio Real in Madrid as being inspired by Versailles. And of course, when a lot of us think of Versailles, we think that it epitomizes the luxury and the wealth inequality that led to the French Revolution and the overthrowing of the French monarchy. Was there ever a Spanish Revolution, ever an attempt to depose the monarchy in Spain? And what are attitudes towards the monarchy today?
The revolution. Unfortunately, in my opinion, in the history of Spain, we had no revolution. Unfortunately, because it came what we consider a kind of revolution. It came actually too late, and it was actually too brief. We are talking about that moment, that specific moment in which in Spain at the beginning of the 1900s, there were huge problems of political and economical corruption with that king called Alfonso XIII, who was somehow helping Franco and his supporters to give that military coup d'etat that came actually very, very soon. And that is the moment in which Spain became an independent republic, as France is. Okay, but that was actually brief because Franco gave that military coup d'etat, and then after those 40 years of dictatorship, the monarchy came back to Spain by decision of a dictator in 1975, and 3 years later, we Spanish, we voted democratically, accepting the monarchy again in Spain with a very special peculiarity. They do not have the power anymore that they had before. I mean, nowadays they are just our best cultural ambassadors, our figureheads, and the power is actually in the hands of our president that we choose democratically every 4 years.
All right. Well, yeah, fascinating that they have chosen to democratically continue to have the monarchy. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us. And let's finish our tour of the Royal Palace.
The palace is still used for formal state ceremonies and receptions. The king throws dinner parties for up to 150 guests at this bowling lane-sized table. The king's front yard? It's enjoyed by all the people of Madrid. And this plaza is another example of how throughout Europe, energetic governments are turning formerly car-congested wastelands into charming public spaces. Madrid's mayor is nicknamed the Mole for all the digging he's done. Where's all the traffic? Under your feet.
All right, Federico. Before we continue on, I have a few photos of you at the Royal Palace in Madrid that were taken by one of your tour members, Sue. So we want to say thank you to Sue for contributing some photos and videos to tonight's show. But Federico, when I was working on writing up the links, the resource links for tonight's show, and whenever I needed an adjective for you, I always wanted to use exuberant. You just have so much energy and passion for what you do. And I just think these photos of you on tour showcase that so well. We have you here in front of the Royal Palace with your tour group.
Sue is actually behind me.
Sue, right behind you.
Sue, the woman who made all these pictures. Thank you, Sue. Thank you. You're watching.
You. And here you are giving a tour with, of course, your fan that matches your outfit. And can you tell us what this sculpture is?
Yeah, he's actually the man. He's Carlos III. He's the king of Spain belonging to the Bourbon dynasty. He became king of Spain in a very, very, very unexpected way. His story is absolutely fascinating. And he and his wife, when they were mature people, they already had kids, and then the queen died in a very unexpected way just 1 year after the coronation. He became a widower in that palace with so many kids and so many teens. A great man with ethical values and a great longevity. We are so lucky to be able to say that a good person was in power for many, many, many years, doing wonderful things for Spanish people without attacking any other country in the world. He's the best mayor of the city. He's the best king of Spain. He's the most ethical ruler in the history of Spain.
Well, and Federico, I mean, I also have to point out, we've seen you in your yellow outfit, but when you're on tour, you've told me that you have a different color for every day. So here we have purple Federico. Here we have Federico in black and white with a matching white fan. Here we have red Federico being disappointed by the monarchy. Here we have, again, red Federico with the matching fan. And finishing up, we have my favorite, the Federico that we have with us now, orange Federico. Orange is my favorite color, but I love this. You're such a storyteller when you guide, and I can just see everybody's eyes gravitating towards you. And Federico, I'm curious. Clearly, you're so passionate about guiding. And I was just wondering, what is your favorite thing about getting to show travelers your home city of Madrid?
Wow, my favorite thing in my city in Madrid, what can I tell you? I love to guide people inside the royal palace. I actually enjoy to perform the role of the king, telling them in first person the history of the palace. But at the same time, I just love to guide people inside the Prado art gallery and to go in depth into the psychological factor, the human factor of those painters like Diego Velázquez, Francisco de Goya, explain those paintings. And I especially love Picasso and his masterpiece, Guernica. Yeah.
Well, we will get to see some of those artworks soon. But first, I have one other question for you. In those photos, we saw you with your different colored fans. I know that that's an accessory you take with you almost everywhere you go. Is that something that is, I mean, historically, I always thought that it was mostly women that had fans. Is that not the case today? Are there men and women that use fans?
Fans were just for women in the old times. That was the way to seduce men, you see. And there is actually a fan language, which is actually quite interesting, you see, depending how you show your fan. It's all about a kind of a love communication for those women in those days who were not allowed to show their love to those gentlemen, you see. Like nowadays, the fan is just the best air conditioning that we have in Spain. Women, men, I mean, everyone is having a fan in summertime. Like this one, this is a cool one with all those monuments of Madrid, the city, the capital of Spain, you see. Nowadays, it's just a kind of a unisex element, you see. Men and women, we all go with fans in Spain, especially in summertime. Yeah.
Well, maybe on my Christmas list, I'll have to put like a 12 pack of different colored fans so that I can also always have one to match my outfit.
Yeah.
All right. So, Federico, we're now going to transition from some older Spanish history to some really potent Spanish history that's fairly recent and is still remembered by a lot of Spaniards today. So let's go and visit the Valley of the Fallen.
For another thought-provoking excursion, we're side-tripping from Madrid up into the Guadarrama Mountains. A 500-foot-tall granite cross marks the Valley of the Fallen, an immense and powerful underground monument to the victims of Spain's devastating civil war. In the late 1930s, 1 million Spaniards died as conservative Catholics in the military slugged it out against secular Democrats. Unlike America's Civil War, which pitted North against South, this war was between classes and ideologies. It divided every village. The right-wing fascists ultimately won, and Franco ruled Spain as its dictator until 1975.
Federico, that's incredible to me that this such a crucial piece of history is so recent. So many of the conflicts that we discuss in Europe are so much older, but 1975, and Rick said that it divided every village. I'm wondering, are there still some lingering tensions in Spain today from that period, or do you maybe have any family members that were affected by the Spanish Civil War?
Yes, actually, what can I tell you about this? Because there are so many things. When I see the Valley of the Fallen, I have to say that most of the Spaniards, we don't want to go there because it is actually sad. It was supposed to be tribute of a posthumous homage dedicated to all the victims, but in reality, we all know that was exclusively a monument dedicated to himself. to Franco's power. Socially, Spain is still divided, although we have to say that those Franco supporters are just a small minority in this country, socially speaking, thank God. I have to tell you, my friends, we are right now, the situation starts to get, you see, better in many ways when we see that just a short time ago, our president right now, Pedro Sanchez, he was the one who finally took away of that place the body of the dictator. You see, we have this T-shirt where you see how it says, hey, adios, bye-bye, Franco, get out of here, boom. And all the victims of the war are just kicking him out of the Valley of the Fallen, because in reality, this is a place for, this is now that the dictator is out of there, now this is the moment in which this place becomes a neutral posthumous homage dedicated to anyone who died during the Spanish Civil War. This is the beginning of a new period, which is actually quite interesting. And this is showing to you the evidence of that. It happened just a short time ago.
So we'll continue to, in this video, we'll continue to watch. Obviously, it was filmed well over 10 years ago. And so we're going to see Franco's grave. But nowadays, Franco's remains have been removed and moved to another location so that it can truly just be a monument for all those that fell in the Spanish Civil War. So thank you for that context, and let's step inside the monument.
The sorrowful Pieta draped over the entrance must have had a powerful impact on mothers who came here to remember their fallen sons. A solemn silence fills the basilica. As if measuring sorrow and distance, this 870-foot-long chamber is far longer than any church in Europe. The line of torch-like lamps adds to the somber ambience. Franco's prisoners, the enemies of the right, were put to work digging this memorial out of solid rock. Franco's grave takes center stage. Some Spaniards come here to honor him. Others come to be sure he's still dead.
But interred here in chapels flanking the altar are the remains of tens of thousands, victims from both sides who lost their lives in Spain's Civil War.
With every visit, I stare into the eyes of those angels with swords and think about all the heroes who keep dying for God and country at the request of the latter. Another place to remember the victims of Spain's Civil War is back in Madrid at the Centro Reina Sofia. This modern art museum has a fine collection of paintings, but we're heading directly to the epic work showing the harsh realities of modern war.
In 1937, Guernica, a village in northern Spain, was the target of the world's first aerial saturation bombing. It was a kind of a dress rehearsal for the horrors of World War II, approved by Franco, carried out by Hitler.
The Spanish artist Pablo Picasso heard the shocking news and immediately set to work sketching the destruction as he imagined it. In a matter of weeks, he wove these bomb-shattered shards into a large mural called Guernica. For the first time, the world could see the destructive force of the rising fascist movement, a prelude to World War II. It's as if shards from the bombing are pasted onto the canvas. A woman looks to the sky. Horses scream. A soldier falls, body shattered, sword broken. A wounded woman flees a burning house. A bull, symbol of Spain, ponders it all, watching over a mother and her dead baby, a modern Pieta. Picasso's painting threw a stark light on the brutality of Hitler and Franco. Guernica caused an immediate sensation, and with each passing year and war, it seems more prophetic. Picasso put a human face on collateral damage.
So, Federico, I want to go back to this image because I know that you are kind of particularly fascinated with this work by Picasso. Can you tell us why you love it so much?
Well, it is all about what happened before, during, and after the painting. The story is just fascinating. Well, technically, I mean, people will think that Picasso is cheating us because this is just weird and this is just cubism. To be cubist means to show to you reality in 2 dimensions, exclusively 2 dimensions, as an artistic answer to the birth of photography and the birth of cinema. Okay, that is technically or artistically the explanation. But what about those stories behind history? This is the moment in which Hitler and Mussolini came here to support Franco and to kill people in Spain. This was really, as Rick said before, a rehearsal of World War II. It happened all over Spain, but specifically that day, in that moment, in that location, there was a British journalist who took those pictures and wrote those words in English language to the world. You were the first ones to know the truth. We were cheated for many, many years. And then Picasso was in those days the boss, the curator of the Prado Art Gallery in Madrid. We have to consider, my friends, that Madrid was the last city to surrender. We were waiting and resisting until the last minute, and we just sent Picasso to Paris, to the World Expo in 1937, to paint something about Spain. And then when he knew everything about the destruction of Guernica, that small village in the Basque region in northern Spain, he thought, I am in the right place at the right time to show to the world the reality of Spain, the Spanish Civil War, in a cubist way. And that was the right place and the right time, because the world was in Paris and Picasso was beating the face of Franco like this. Boom, in front of the world. That is just because of that reason. Obviously, Franco was a very ignorant man, but others told him what was happening. And because of political censorship, we were not allowed to see this painting in Spain for ages. The painting had to fly, if you understand what I mean, physically, from France to United Kingdom, then all over Scandinavia, Latin America, Brazil, Mexico, America, and finally it stayed in the safest destination for many years, the MoMA in New York City. You Americans, you had the painting in a perpetual use. Just wait until that moment in which democracy could come back to Spain. And that happened in the late 70s and the beginning of the 80s. And Guernica came back home, the most iconic work of art against any kind of terrorism, any kind of violence, any kind of war, flew from New York City to Madrid, 9/11. 9/11, 1981, and the painting is in Madrid because Picasso said, people from Madrid were the last ones to surrender. People from Madrid gave to me all the facilities and all the resources to make this impossible dream in Paris. Needless to say, people from Madrid deserve my painting. And that is why we are so lucky and so happy to share with you what some art experts have classified as the top of the tops in the history of painting in the 20th century, Guernica by Pablo Picasso.
Wow. I mean, I did not know about that whole history of it needing to be moved around as if it was some sort of political fugitive. That's fascinating, Federico. Thank you for sharing that story with us. Of course, we've talked about some heavy subject matter these past few minutes, and so we're now going to go to Madrid's Buen Retiro Park, the Central Park of Madrid, which is now part of that UNESCO World Heritage Landscape of Light. And if you've had a long Monday, this is your chance to just catch your breath and have a serene moment in Buen Retiro Park.
Picasso put a human face on collateral damage. Today, Spain enjoys its peace and prosperity. That's particularly clear at the Retiro Park. It's made to order for a green and breezy escape from the city. During weekends, it becomes a carnival of fun. Madrid's much-loved Central Park offers splendid picnicking, rowboating, and people-watching. Opposite the park, the Prado Museum holds my favorite collection of paintings anywhere. The paintings give an eye-pleasing overview of Spain's rich history, from the Golden Age through its slow fade. In the 1500s, Spain was Europe's superpower, flush with gold from newly discovered America, and ruled by this man, Emperor Charles V. Here, the great Venetian artist Titian portrays Charles as he was, the most powerful man in the world. Charles's son, Philip II, though very religious, collected a bevy of sensual Venetian paintings. In Titian's Venus and the Organ Player, we see the conflicts these people struggled with, torn between high cultural pursuits, as symbolized here by music, and more worldly pleasures. Danae, also by Titian, is a virtual Renaissance Miss August. Money falling from the sky made royals and aristocrats, the people who commissioned this kind of art, feel their wealth was blessed by God. Hieronymus Bosch, who painted 500 years ago and seems radical even today, gives all this hedonism a different spin. His Garden of Earthly Delights, a 3-paneled altarpiece that actually hung in the king's bedroom, shows where all this worldly temptation ultimately leads. First, man and woman are born innocent in the Garden of Eden, blessed by a kind God. Then, foolish people chase after earthly delights, a pursuit that is ultimately a vicious cycle. They're lured by the world's pleasures. Eating, drinking, sex. Two lovers are suspended in a bubble, and in the third panel, the bubble pops. These party animals are heading straight to hell, a burning post-apocalyptic wasteland where sinners are led off to eternal torment. Every sinner gets his just desserts. Gluttons are themselves consumed. Good time musicians are tortured by their own instruments. Gamblers have their party forever crashed. And a lecher gets sexually harassed by a pig-faced nun. In the center of it all, a face peers out of this bizarre nightmare. A self-portrait of the artist, Bosch. Starting in the 1600s, Spain entered a long, slow period of decline. But its wealthy court continued to finance great art. Perhaps the most loved painting in all the Prado is Las Menenas by Diego Velázquez. Velázquez takes us behind the scenes as he paints a portrait of the king and queen. The artist paints himself at work, along with the princess who's watching her mom and dad pose. She's joined by her servants, the Meninas. In this wonderfully 3D painting, the unique perspective is that of the king and the queen as they pose. In fact, they can be seen in the mirror at the back of the room. By 1800, Spain was no longer a world power, but it continued to produce great artists. Francisco de Goya was Spain's official court painter. He dutifully portrayed the king and the queen in all their royal finery. But many see Goya becoming disenchanted with his patrons. Here in these vacant faces, he reveals the ineptitude of the royal family. Goya's painting, called The 2nd of May, recalls how Spain hoped the ideals of revolutionary France would spread, bringing democracy to Spain. But when Napoleon invaded, their hopes were dashed. On May 2nd, 1808, Madrid's working people staged a protest. French soldiers, with their Egyptian mercenaries, slashed through the crowds and arrested the ringleaders. The next day, this painting's called The 3rd of May, the French began reprisals. Ignoring the rebels' passionate pleas, a faceless firing squad mows them down without mercy. Goya, disillusioned by all the senseless violence, portrayed common people as the victims of war. Thankfully, stepping out of the Prado, it's a bright and happy day in Madrid, which seems determined to celebrate its freedom and enjoy life to its fullest. While Spain remembers its rich and poignant history and shares it well with visitors, the focus of today seems to be on living well. After every trip to this exciting city, the impression I take home is that of a thriving people with an enduring culture which really knows how to dance.
So Federico, through that journey, both through the history and then through the art of Spain, we did see some darker chapters of Spanish history. But Rick talks about how he sees Spain becoming freer and more vibrant. And I'm just wondering, how have you seen Spain change most just during your lifetime?
Well, a lot in many, many ways. I mean, culturally, we are a Christian Catholic country, but in reality, it's a minority of Spaniards practice. Spain is not actually that kind of politically and religiously that conservative country that was a long time ago in the generation of my parents. Not really. I mean, Spain nowadays is a very liberal country, very progressive country in every meaning. I mean, we are actually, some of my American friends, they actually got quite surprised when we talk about how public healthcare and public education in this country are so good. That is actually very important to consider. And socially speaking, I mean, social minorities. I'm just thinking about how nowadays gay marriage and gay adoption of children is 100% with the same rights that the straight people have. That is, for me, that is wonderful. That is just saying that a country where those rights of those social minorities are preserved. Consequently, you see, all our rights of the majority of people are obviously preserved, and that is fantastic. I have to say that Spain is actually nowadays a reference. We talk about progressive ideas and kind of democratic society. Spain is a very good country. I really have to say that.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to me to see, even just in the 11 years since I studied in Spain, I feel like it has gotten a lot more progressive in many social issues. And so it's fun to see the country continue to evolve in that way. So thank you for sharing that insight with us. And Federico, now that we've done, the hard-hitting history, the art, I'm thinking that we should finish off the show with just some dinner and some light entertainment. How does that sound to you? Ooh. Okay, so we are going to have some tapas, a nice tapas dinner with Rick, and then we are going to finish with some light Spanish entertainment.
Good.
For dinner in Madrid, it's a movable feast. For maximum fun, people, and atmosphere, do the Tapa Tango. It's a time-honored tradition of going from one bar to the next, munching, drinking, and socializing. When it comes to variety, Madrid is Spain's tapas capital. Grab a toothpick and stab something strange. While Spaniards don't eat dinner until 9 or 10 o'clock, with a meal like this, I can eat early and still go local. For starters, we're going for one of Madrid's quirkiest snacks, and this spot is named for it, La Oreja de Oro, sautéed pig's ears. Pig's ears are a favorite here, and Jaime is a frantic one-man show who somehow gets everything just right.
Orejas! Ahí, Ribeiro. See, this wine is like house-made wine from the northwest of Spain, from Galicia.
Okay. And it's cloudy a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit cloudy, so that you don't see the poor quality.
All right.
Gracias, Jaime.
Gracias. So this is?
Yeah, so this is pig's ear. This is the cartilage, actually. This is sautéed with a little bit of olive oil, Spanish paprika, and parsley.
And that's actually the cartilage.
That's right.
Crunchy.
Yeah.
Wow. Pig's ears. I never thought I'd be eating actual pig's ears.
Yeah.
Just up the street, Casa Tony is run by Tony. He's popular for his refreshing gazpacho, the cold tomato and garlic soup.
Carlos, the gazpacho is really refreshing in the summer, right?
Yeah, gazpacho is like a vegetable soup with a tomato base.
But cold.
And it's very refreshing, yeah, it's cold.
It's nice, yeah.
At Tony's, you can have huevos con chorizo, potatoes brava, mystery meats, and the house vermouth. Don't worry about paying until you're ready to go. Then ask for la cuenta, the bill. Next, it's La Casa del Abuelo, packed with seafood lovers savoring sizzling plates of tasty shrimp and prawns. I like gambas al ajillo, shrimp sautéed with garlic, and gambas a la plancha, grilled shrimp. A glass of the house red wine, right out of the keg, is incredibly cheap. The litter on the floor is normal. That's where people traditionally toss their trash and shells. For a sweet late-night finale, enjoy pudding-like hot chocolate and churros. Churros are the favorite local donut. Dunk and chat, recalling highlights of the day and looking forward to tomorrow.
The best way to finish the tapas experience.
All right. So Federico, that brings us to our favorite segment, A Table, where we ask you what you are having for dinner tonight, or at this point, maybe it's breakfast. I think it's a little late, even for a Spanish dinner right now. But could you share with us what you're munching on tonight, what some of your favorite tapas are?
Yes, of course. Okay, first I got just a little bit of white wine. Okay, very, very important to get a good glass of white wine. And then I just put a little bit of olive oil from Spain, all right? In this plate with Iberian ham, manchego cheese, and those wonderful, wonderful banderillas. Let me show to you what is a banderilla, which is actually this skewer. We have these pickled stuff. Let me see. Yes, this is the pickled cucumber. Goes this way. Okay. Then we go with this pickled olive. This way. Then we also have this red pepper, a small piece of red pepper that is not spicy, by the way. And finally, this pickled onion, small onion. Okay.
Is that the proper way to eat a banderilla, one piece at a time?
Exactly. That's the way to eat it, the way to enjoy it. And what about this, my friends? Look at this. Manchego cheese is one of the best cheeses. I mean, it's coming from the land of La Mancha, Don Quixote de La Mancha. There we have this delicious shaped cheese that is actually known in many countries. The Manchego cheese from Spain is delicious. And the Iberian ham, it's all about the race of the animal, the way we feed the animal with acorns, and the way we cure this ham. That is, it has no fat and is super tasty, super yummy. This is the best ham ever, Iberian, jamón ibérico, from Spain. And wait a minute, my delicious gazpacho.
Gazpacho in a bottle.
In a bottle,
Gazpacho to go.
Which is the Spanish V8 that we find here. 8 vegetables, mainly tomato is obviously the main one, and this is absolutely refreshing. And super healthy, the Spanish gazpacho. What I don't have here, I have to tell you, Dave, my friends, I have to tell you that right now, at this time of the night here in Madrid, what I'm going to do now is to go to the Chocolateria San Ginés, which is not far from here, to get a cup of hot chocolate and those delicious churros. I have to tell you that Tchaikovsky, the Russian composer, when he was about to die, he had a regression to his childhood. He composed Nutcracker, and then he thought about Spain as a country of chocolate, and he composed the Spanish dance, which is called A Cup of Hot Chocolate. With those castanets, he's actually thinking about Spain and thinking about hot chocolate. It's not only about the quality of the chocolate. It's not only about the quality of those churros. The best thing is to know that the place is open 24 hours. So it should be for.
Don't tell me that. Now the next time I'm in Madrid, I'm just going to be going to get churros y chocolate at all hours of the day. I can't be trusted with that knowledge. Well, Federico, thank you for sharing your food with us. I do have one question, because we often have viewers that are curious. how they'll find the food scene if they have a dietary restriction, if they're vegetarian as I am, or vegan or gluten-free. Will there be tapas options for people with different dietary restrictions?
Absolutely, yes. Nowadays, in all over Spain, but mainly when we talk about big cities like Madrid, you have so many restaurants where you don't read. Well, of course, we have good vegetarian restaurants, but we have those restaurants where you will find many vegetarian options. Actually, I can tell you one of the most popular examples of Spanish gastronomy is the tortilla española, which is different to the Mexican tortilla that you all know. It's all about eggs, but potato cubes and small pieces of onion. Pincho de tortilla. Go everywhere, any bar, cafe, restaurant, and you will get a delicious Spanish tortilla, very yummy, very tasty, and very inexpensive for breakfast, lunch, dinner, whenever you want. That is just one example. There are many more.
It was my all-time favorite food in Spain. My Spanish mama would make an incredible tortilla española, and oftentimes we would have it at dinner, and then the next day she'd take a leftover slice, put it between two pieces of baguette, and I'd have a bocadillo de tortilla, a tortilla sandwich for lunch, which just carbs on carbs, but it was fantastic. So yes, many different options for people with different diets. And we are going to see a couple more options right now as we continue our tapas dinner with Rick.
Oh, baby. What do we have here, Jorge? What is this called?
Codfish.
Codfish? Can you say it in Spanish?
Bacalao. Lomos de bacalao.
Bacalao.
It's like the steak, the loin steak, the pork.
The loin steak of the cod.
Of the cod, yeah.
The loin steak of the cod with some nice Catalonian wine.
Priorat.
Nice. And we are here, obviously a wine bar with all of that. This is dinner time in Madrid, huh?
Yeah, at what time? At 11:45.
Quarter to 11, Federico. I mean, not all Spaniards eat that late, but I know my family, when I lived in Spain, we ate about the earliest of any family in my whole class, and we ate at about 8:30. I know that a lot of American travelers are sometimes worried about adjusting to the Spanish dinner time. What tips do you have for travelers about how they can best adjust?
Well, don't worry, please. Don't worry at all. I mean, we Spaniards, we are just insane people. And that is basically why we eat later breakfast, later lunch, later dinner, because the sun is constantly shining. And that is the reason why we do things a little bit later than other people do in Northern Europe. But you are American people, you are people with common sense. So don't worry about that, because when you come here to a big city, cosmopolitan city like Madrid is, you will find all those restaurants, cafes, taverns open at any time. So you can actually show up a little bit earlier. And those owners of those restaurants will be very, very happy, because they know they actually usually have a first sitting for foreigners with common sense, and then a second sitting for some crazy Spaniards who eat too late. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, let's keep looking at Rick being a crazy Spaniard.
Yeah, we're 11.
No problem.
At night.
No problem. We're having a great time eating at about 11 p.m. in my kind of tapas bar. A tapas bar.
Hi, I'm Rick Steves. It's a beautiful rainy night in Madrid. Look out there. I'm on top of the 100-year-old City Hall, which now is a great restaurant. It's called the Palacio de Cibeles. And this is the owner. This is Javier.
Hello, Rick.
And
Hello,
Javier
everybody.
came home. And I've got my guide, Javier. Is everybody in Spain named Javier? Now, Javier is a tour guide, and he knows why croquetas are so near and dear to the Spanish heart. And it's been confusing to me, and Javier just explained it to me, and I would like him to explain it to you very quickly, because all over Europe you find foods that remind the children of how their parents suffered in the old days, like in the United States, when we had to clean the plate because of the Depression or whatever. Javier, tell us about croquetas.
It's basically leftovers from the day before. The 20th century in Spain, dictatorship, before that the war, the post-war. So this is something very cheap to make. Basically it's flour, milk, the olive oil, and then you make a bechamel. And then last night's chicken, last night meat, you can stuff it in there.
Whatever is left over.
Whatever is leftovers.
And then it's just, this reminds you of your childhood a little bit?
Maybe once a week at least.
Try some. Let me see you eat one. This is a croqueta.
Yeah.
It's good?
It's very good.
Javier, thank you for the croquetas. Life is good. How do you say life is good?
La vida es bella y buena para compartirla con los amigos.
All right, here we go. Living well in España.
I do love croquetas, Federico. And now that we've finished our tapas meal, we are going to conclude our evening with some entertainment. And so we have some classic Spanish entertainment that we are going to share. And these videos actually came from your recent Barcelona and Madrid tour. So let's enjoy some Spanish performance. Federico, when I think of flamenco dancing, I typically think of southern Spain. Is there also a good flamenco scene in Madrid, though?
Yes, actually, yes, of course. It is. It's actually the place we are watching that video. I can watch those dancers, those singers. They're really, 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 really good. And that is actually a flamenco place called Carboneras, which is one of those places where local people go to enjoy the show, and obviously some travelers enjoying the flamenco. Flamenco is just magic. It's just magic, and it is, well, the roots of flamenco, the birthplace of flamenco is actually southern Spain, the province of Cadiz. It's actually the place where flamenco was traditionally born. But nowadays, with our wonderful high-speed train in Spain, AVE, all those dancers, all those singers, they come to Madrid. They also go to Barcelona. I would say that nowadays you find the best performers actually in some places in southern Spain and Madrid, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Federico, we are now going to finish the evening with the best performer of them all, you. Can you give us just a quick intro to the performance that you are about to do for us?
Yeah, well, actually, I occasionally enjoy singing. You know, when I was a young student, I have a kind of a crisis in my life. I had to close my eyes and to think, what should I be, a tour guide or an opera singer? And now I think that I made the right choice. I am actually a tour guide, and occasionally I enjoy singing, mostly Spanish songs, you see, from Spain and from Latin America, beautiful songs that somehow people know, at least those melodies and occasionally those lyrics. But right now I'm singing just because the sun is always shining in Spain and other places, obviously, like Italy. I'm singing in Italian, O Sole Mio, just to say, oh, thank you, the sun is shining for us. O Sole Mio, the famous Italian song. Yeah.
All right, well, let's hear you sing now. And after Federico's final performance for us, we will have a time for a Q&A session. So if you have any questions for Federico, please post them in the Q&A. And let's hear Federico now.
Just a little bit of rain in Spain, just a little bit. But, you know, the sun was shining. The sun was shining everywhere. So I'm gonna take a seat here. Yes, take a seat. I'm gonna sing a song that you will know in the Italian language, and it's all about how the sun is always shining, no matter where you go. Italy, southern France, Spain, and it's actually O Sole Mio. Okay, so this is just a way to say thank you to all of you. Okay, there we go. Che bella cosa, una giornata al sole, un'aria serena, dopo una tempesta, per l'aria fresca, para già una festa. Che bella cosa, una giornata al sole. Manato sole, più bello in o sole mio, stai fronte a me. O sole mio, stai fronte a me, stai fronte a te. Quando fa notte, o suona scene, me viene quasi una malinconia. Sotto a finestra sto a restaria. Quando fa notte, o suona scene, ma no. O sole mio, stai fronte a me. O sole mio, stai fronte a te. Stai fronte a te.
All right, Federico, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I am also glad that you made the decision to be a tour guide, but your opera performance, you get to bring your opera to your guiding, and it's a treat for your tour members. We're going to get to questions for Federico in just a moment, but first we have a quick word from our sponsor. I would like to remind you once more that if you are interested in joining a Rick Steves tour in 2023, I would recommend booking it before the end of the year, because we currently have a Seasons Givings holiday event in which not only will you receive $100 off of any tour booking for a 2023 tour, but after you book, you will also get to allocate $100 of Rick Steves Europe's money to a nonprofit organization. We have 4 nonprofits that we're supporting with this event, and you get to pick which one to donate money to. So you get to have your $100 tour discount and donate it to And I will remind you once more that if you're interested in a tour going to Madrid, we have some open seats on our Barcelona and Madrid tours for departures in February, and you can go see Federico and maybe hear some opera in person. All right, Federico, we have some questions for you. First question, clearly you are a talented singer. One viewer is also wondering if you are able to dance the flamenco. Is that something that a lot of Spaniards learn?
Well, she's better than me. This one is actually better than me. But I have to know, I'm not so good as the ones that you watched before. No way. I just manage. I know how to actually do my fingers and how to clap the right way, and occasionally a little bit of foot tapping, but I just occasionally manage, but just that's all I can say, nothing more than that. I'm a kind of amateur dancer in flamenco, not so good as I would like to be.
Well, you certainly have the snaps down. Federico, Grant is wondering, why is the bear the symbol of Madrid?
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's a good question, my friends. The bear and the tree right here, the bear and the tree in Madrid. We are not talking about a big bear. No, we are talking about a short tree. And this is actually called the black bear and the madrona in the madrona tree. The madrona tree is actually giving to us a sweet fruit. And we know that all the bears have a sweet tooth. Okay, we say in Spanish, oso goloso. Oso goloso means bear with a sweet tooth. In those medieval ages, the priority was to show to you fertility of Mother Nature, local flora and local fauna hundreds of years ago. Those madrona trees everywhere. And in those days, we had no problems of global warming, and we had many bears, many black bears. Not anymore. Now those bears are in northern Spain, not here, not anymore. But in those days, the bear and the tree were chosen as the most iconic elements of Mother Nature in Madrid in those days. And nowadays, that is what we find in the coat of arms of the city of Madrid.
Interesting. Yeah, I always think of Berlin as having the symbol of the bear, but Madrid as well.
Yeah.
Curtis is wondering, what day trips do you recommend out from Madrid? I know that with your day tour company, you do some trips outside of Madrid. What are some of your favorites?
Yeah, well, actually, we already talked about the Valley of the Fallen, and actually next to the Valley of the Fallen, we find a fortification, a fortress that is really one of the most visited monuments in Spain. It's called El Escorial. El Escorial is showing to you in the same way we were talking a few minutes ago about the Royal Palace in Madrid, showing to you the glory and the splendor of the Bourbon dynasty in those 1700s. Then let's go back in time to those 1500s, and then we find the power of the Habsburg dynasty in Spain, the Spanish Empire, and then that emperor, actually, the Charles V, his son, Philip II, is actually the man who named Madrid officially the capital of the Spanish Empire in 1561. And just to show to you an idea about the dimension of that empire, I tell you how those islands that are far away from Spain are called the Islands of Philip, the Philippines, because that was actually a property that belonged to the King of Spain, Philip II, and it's all there in that spectacular Escorial castle or fortress. Yeah,
I had never made that connection with the Philippines before. That's fascinating. Federico, Sarah would like to know, are tapas bars, would you say that those are family friendly if somebody was traveling with a family and wanted to do a tapas dinner? Are there families that go?
Totally. That is actually the purpose. When you enter to any of those meson is a word, how do we say in Spanish language? Table, mesa. how do we say big table? Maison. A maison is actually a family-style tavern where you enter. Supposedly, you find there a big table, and then you meet your friends, your relatives, and then you share the food. And it's absolutely family style. Actually, that is the way that many families, you see, with the kids or teens, they go and they eat in such a informal and enjoyable way, because you have tapas, you see, for everyone, including kids' priorities. Yeah.
I've never heard maison before, a big table. Speaking of maisones,
yes.
I'm guessing that you gather around one with your family for the holidays, and Cecilia is wondering, what is a classic Spanish Christmas meal, a meal that you'd have with your family, maybe on Christmas or Christmas Eve, or I know that Epiphany, the Tres Reyes, is a big day in Spain. What are some classic holiday meals?
Okay, good. Let's try to be super quick, telling you that people in Christmas time usually enjoy to eat grilled meats like suckling pig or lamb, and fish lovers, they love something that we call here in Madrid called gilded head bream, which is a delicious fish with lemon sauce, a slice of lemon, all right? And that is absolutely delicious. It's coming, actually, the tradition from the times of Charles III. We have in Madrid, we love fish and seafood because we are located at the epicenter of the whole peninsula, and that fresh fish and seafood is coming from every corner of Spain and Portugal in the night in those trucks with ice, and they are in the early morning in Madrid. And then people eat fresh fish all over. Let me tell you something quick about Epiphany. Gabe, you say something really interesting. We have a tradition. When I talk about this, I talk to my nephews, hey, do you believe in Santa Claus or do you believe in the three wise men? Because Santa Claus is showing up actually Christmas Eve, and the three wise men are showing up Epiphany's Eve. And they tell me we believe in both, because they just give presents. They bring presents to those kids, and then they eat that big cake. You see, sometimes with some cream on the top, you see, and then inside the cake, there is a little surprise somewhere there. You see, just a kind of a little surprise, and they all want to eat the cake and to see who is the lucky kid who finally got that surprise and that kind of a present. Is just a game of magic. You see, but kids and adults are actually very happy eating the Epiphany's cake, which is given by the three wise men. You see.
Well, it sounds like you have a very long and exciting holiday season in front of you, Federico. And we have time for one more question tonight. And that question is, you know, you've had a chance tonight to tell us about your hometown. You know, you're a Madrid cat, as you said, the place of your ancestors. And I'm just curious, what is your absolute favorite part of your city? I mean, I know that you travel a lot to other parts of the world, but when you come back to Madrid, what is the magical thing that you most look forward to?
Well, I love to guide people inside the Royal Palace, inside those museums, Museo del Prado. As Rick said, you see, the best museum ever. That's what he said, you know, and Museo Sofia. But my place, especially now in fall season, my place is El Retiro Park. Retiro means retreat. I mean, those kings and queens in those days, they have too much stress on their lives and they deserve a break, you see. And that's why they got the Retiro Gardens, the good retreat gardens. And now you go there in fall season and it's just beautiful, the most romantic park. Believe me, I've been guiding people all over. I know many cities, I know many parks, and Retiro has something absolutely special and magic. That would be the place, the Retiro Park in Madrid. Yeah.
Well, I hope that you are able to get there tomorrow after your Herculean effort staying up late to give us a fantastic virtual tour around your city. So thank you again, Federico, for lending your time and your talents. I've greatly enjoyed it. And you're going to be back. We're going to be excited to have you back on January 12th. You'll be presenting for the Festival of Europe that we will be having throughout January. So we'll see you again soon. And until then, Federico, thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabe. Thank you, Julianne. And thank you to all the viewers in America and Canada. My friends, thank you and hasta la vista, amigos.
Hasta la vista. All right, and one last time, we hope to see all of you next week for our European Christmas celebration. Julianne will be joined by Rick for that, and you can register at ricksteves.com/MNT. We hope to see you then. Buenas noches, Federico.
Buenas noches, amigos.
Good night, Julianne.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches, Julianne.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.